The rainy season in Jiangnan always carries a sticky, gentle stillness. Rainwater trickles along the black-tiled eaves, forming dense curtains of pearls. Drip, drip, falling into the grooves of the flagstones in the courtyard. They gather into small puddles, reflecting the warm, hazy glow from the study. In the study, Lu Wenyuan is sorting today's documents by the light of an oil lamp, unhurried. His fingers brush against the paper, producing a soft rustling sound, like silkworms nibbling mulberry leaves. On the desk, the inkstone holds ink that is not yet dry, releasing the pleasant scent of pine smoke. He carefully stacks several documents with the county magistrate's approvals for spring plowing and sowing, placing a jade paperweight on top. These repetitive, slow movements bring him comfort. The sound of the rain outside becomes the perfect backdrop, a steady pitter-patter, as if it could wash away the dust and disturbances of the day. He sets down his work, leaning back into the wide rattan chair. He feels his muscles and bones relaxing. The chair back is cool, but the old cotton robe draped over him carries a familiar warmth, as if sun-dried. The charcoal in the brazier burns brightly, occasionally emitting a soft crackle. Warmth radiates outward in circles, making his feet sweat slightly. This small study, the bookshelves filled with volumes, the brazier's fire, these have become his safe haven. Outside, the world may still be stormy, but here, everything is slow, silent. His thoughts drift like rain threads, far away. Many years ago, he was not Lu Wenyan, just a hungry boy from a village in Haozhou called Yuan. That was also a rainy day, but not gentle like this one. It was a cold autumn rain, chilling to the bone. He clutched a rock-hard grain cake and followed some older village youths, stumbling through the mud toward the rebel camp where they heard they could eat a full meal. Memories of military life are initially blurred and exhausting. What stands out most are the mornings woken by bugles before dawn, the air sharp and cold, mixed with the smell of horse dung, sweat, and dust. He joined others in mechanically swinging crude wooden spears, their movements synchronized, their breath forming white clouds in the cold morning light. Sometimes during breaks, he would steal glances at the leader known as General Zhu. He always wore simple cloth clothes, his face resolute, his eyes sharp as an eagle's. But when he looked at young soldiers like them, his gaze sometimes held a subtle, complex tenderness, like that of a family elder. Yuan didn't understand that look. He only wondered if, after drilling, he could get a bowl of thicker porridge. Memories of war are blurred patches of light and deafening shouts. He remembers the smell of damp earth, the acrid odor of torches, the harsh clang of metal. But his memories are more about the long, quiet waits between battles, waiting for damaged leather armor to be repaired, waiting for the next marching order, waiting for that perpetually hungry stomach to be soothed with a bit of grain. He learned to tidy his mind in waiting, just as he would tidy his tent. He folded fear and confusion like clothes, pressing them deep inside, leaving only the simple thought of surviving and eating another full meal. When did the transformation begin? Perhaps it was when he risked his life to carry a wounded fellow villager off the battlefield, earning his name recognition from an officer. Or perhaps it was as General Zhu's territory expanded, requiring literate and numerate people to manage supplies and provisions. He had attended a few years of primary school as a child, and those square characters buried by famine became his ladder to a different path. He evolved from a soldier who only knew how to swing a sword to a minor leader overseeing the food and clothing of dozens. Later, he became a clerk in the general's mansion, copying documents and checking accounts. He remembers the first time he held his own clean paper and brush, the delicate texture at his fingertips. He also recalls the first time he tallied captured grain records after a battle, the heavy responsibility behind those dry numbers, representing the survival of countless lives. He grew quieter and more meticulous, sorting documents, verifying accounts, arranging grain distribution. These repetitive, detailed tasks flowed like a gentle stream, gradually shaping the shivering boy from the muddy path into a steady, dependable person. The world gradually settled into peace. Weapons were put away, and horses set to graze on southern hills. Some of his comrades, who once gnawed on frozen cakes, stayed in the army. Others returned to farming. He, Zhu Yuanzhang, through years of diligence and meticulous logistical skills, was assigned by official decree to this prosperous, watery region of Jiangnan, becoming the head of a county. Upon arriving at the county office, he gazed at the spacious courtyards and orderly buildings, feeling somewhat disoriented. Here, there was no pervasive dust or sweat, only the faint fragrance of osmanthus trees in the courtyard and the respectful calls of "master" from the servants. He quickly found his way to settle in. Just as he had managed supplies in the military camp, he began to organize this county. One day, he would inspect irrigation in the fields. The next, he would check market prices. Another day, he would go to the storehouse to re-verify old grain ledgers. By the oil lamp, his shadow stretched long across the white walls of the study. The rustle of brush on paper, the occasional crackle of charcoal, and the constant sounds of wind and rain outside, the silent growth of plants. These rhythms made him feel that he was still a person, seeking security in order and repetition. Though what he now carried on his shoulders had shifted from a bundle of firewood to the peace of a whole county's people. The rain seems to have lightened, but the night has deepened. Zhu Yuanzhang rubs his slightly tired eyes and files away the last document. He stands and walks to the window, pushing it open a crack. Cool, moist air rushes in, carrying the fresh scent of earth and plants, along with a faint trace of night-blooming jasmine from some distant courtyard. The streets are already silent, with only the drip of rain from the eaves and the distant echo of the night watchman's wooden clapper from the depths of the alley. The sound is long and blurred, as if coming from a far-off place, filtered through a curtain of water. He takes a deep breath of the crisp air, then slowly exhales. The slight heaviness in his chest from sitting so long seems to dissipate with his breath, carried away by the cool night breeze. The scent of night-blooming jasmine is faint, yet it tugs at his thoughts like an impossibly fine, soft thread. He recalls the courtyard of his childhood home outside the city, where his mother also grew clumps of night-blooming jasmine. On summer nights, when they sat outside to cool off, That fragrance served as the most natural incense, mingled with the breeze from a palm leaf fan and the sweet crispness of watermelon chilled in well water. Back then, the nights didn't seem so long, and the burden on his shoulders truly was just a bundle of firewood, or a basket of freshly picked, dew-kissed green beans. Things change, time flows, but certain scents and sounds seem etched into memory, always able to easily pull one back to a moment of peace. Outside the window gap, rain threads are blown slantwise by the wind, landing on his outstretched fingertips, bringing a fleeting chill. Lu Wenyuan withdraws his hand, leaves the window open, and walks back to the desk. The silver charcoal in the brazier has mostly burned out, leaving only a faint red glow beneath the pale ashes, flickering on and off, occasionally emitting a very soft, almost sigh-like crackle, releasing the last bit of warmth. He picks up the fire tongs, carefully stirs the ashes, letting that faint red glow show a little more to keep it from going out completely. Then adds a small piece of new charcoal. The new charcoal makes a faint hissing sound as it heats up, and soon a weak orange-red halo once again rims the copper basin. After this, he doesn't sit down immediately, but begins to tidy the desk in an unhurried manner. On the left are tonight's finished documents, neatly stacked by date and category. The paper makes a soft, rustling sound as it brushes together, a regular, pleasing noise. He places the stacked documents into the Huanghuali wood box on the right side of the desk. When the lid closes, it emits a solid, reassuring click. This process of bringing order to chaos always brings him an indescribable sense of satisfaction, as if the order within his heart is also being reinforced. Next are the brush and ink. He picks up the small purple hair brush that has accompanied him for years and gently rinses it in the water basin. The brush tip fans out in the water like a miniature cloud of ink, which is then washed clean by the clear water. He uses a soft cloth to very gently blot excess moisture from the bristles, then places the brush neatly on the brush rest. His fingers glide over the smooth yellow jade brush rest, cool to the touch. The pine soot ink stick is returned to the carved ink rest, still carrying a faint, clean, slightly bitter ink fragrance. He doesn't pour out the leftover ink in the inkstone, simply covering it with the inkstone lid. All these movements are performed extremely slowly, with great care, with an almost ritualistic focus. Then he moves to the small table by the brazier. The teacup is long empty, its walls marked by faint tea stains. He lifts the cup, his fingertips feeling the residual, already cooled warmth of the porcelain. He pours the cold tea into the copper spittoon in the corner and uses the small tweezers by the tea tray to pick up a few dead leaves, dampened by rain and blown in through the window gap onto the table, gently casting them into the embers of the brazier. The leaves curl upon meeting the warm ashes, making an almost inaudible sound, and dissolve into a wisp of pale smoke that quickly vanishes in the air. With this done, the small table returns to its original, empty and clean state. Everything in the study seems to be in its proper place. Only he remains, and the boundless, gentle night outside the window along with the endless rain. The rain seems to have thickened again, tapping on the blue tiles and stone steps, merging into a continuous, rustling white noise. Lu Wenyan stands in the center of the study, surveying this familiar space. The neatly arranged books on the shelves, the calligraphy and paintings by past masters hanging on the walls, and in the corner, the recliner with a thick cushion for his occasional naps. He walks to the recliner. It's an old-style rattan recliner. Its rattan smoothed and mellowed by time. When he sits down, the chair makes a soft, reassuring creak. The curves of the backrest and armrests have long been shaped by him and his family to fit his body perfectly. He leans back, sinking into the soft cushion and resilient rattan, and every joint seems to relax in this support. He pulls over the thin blanket draped on the backrest, shakes it out, and covers himself with it. The blanket is made of fine cotton that has been used for a long time, washed to a pale white, but it is exceptionally soft, carrying a scent of sunlight mixed with a faint hint of soap. He adjusts his position, finding the most comfortable angle to fully support his spine and neck. Then he closes his eyes. With sight shut off, hearing and touch become more acute. The rain sound in his ears instantly becomes incredibly clear. It is no longer background noise from outside, but a three-dimensional sound enveloping the entire space. Drops of water falling from the eaves, strung into threads, tapping on the flagstones under the corridor with crisp drip, drip sounds. Distant collected water gurgling in the courtyard drain, its sound muffled and continuous. And countless raindrops sprinkling on roof tiles, branches, leaves, and soil, producing a dense, soft rustling, like millions of silkworms munching mulberry leaves, or like a massive orchestra playing a singular, but never monotonous, lullaby-like melody. Inside, the new charcoal in the brazier has ignited, and the flames leap again, casting a warm, wavering, orange-red glow on his closed eyelids. The crackling of the burning charcoal occasionally intertwines with the rain sounds, making the study feel even warmer and safer. Under the thin blanket, his body temperature gradually rises, and together with the blanket's softness and the chair's support, it builds a seamless, enveloping sense of comfort. His thoughts begin to scatter. They no longer focus on any specific matter. Those documents, grain ledgers, and trivial matters of livelihood now ebb from his mind like a receding tide. In their place come warm, blurred fragments. Winter nights in childhood. The soft rustle of his mother sewing clothes under the lamp. The dull thud of his father mending farm tools, hammer striking wooden handles. And the cool, smoky-scented air that greeted him when he pushed open the door at dawn. These images have no clear outlines, only sounds, scents, and a feeling of peace, like a tide gently washing over the beach of consciousness. His breathing unconsciously deepens and slows. As he inhales, he feels cool air filling his chest, bringing a hint of clarity. As he exhales, the fatigue in his body and the tension in his mind seem to be expelled with his breath. The sounds of rain, charcoal, and his own slow heartbeat gradually merge into a sea of background noise. Just as his consciousness is about to sink into the edge of that warm darkness, he vaguely senses the wind outside changing direction. The breeze carries a clearer chill, and the rain sounds seem more distant and muffled, as if filtered through a thick layer of cotton wool. Unconsciously, he pulls the thin blanket higher, his chin brushing against the soft fabric. A deep sense of peace, like warm water, completely envelops him. The night is still long, and the rain continues to fall. But in this study, warmed by books, charcoal, and memories, in this chair that understands all his weariness, all responsibilities and weights seem to have been temporarily set aside outside the door. What remains is pure, well-wrapped drowsiness, and a steady trajectory gliding toward deeper rest. The firelight in the brazier illuminates his quiet profile, rising and falling slightly with his breath. The wind and rain outside continue their tireless storytelling, while this small study is the warmest, sturdiest boat in the night. It is peacefully moored in the river of time, allowing the external tides to surge as they may, internally maintaining a constant, reassuring stillness and warmth. The corners of Lu Wenyan's mouth seem to curve very slightly, softly upward in his sleep. Perhaps it is the beginning of a dream, or perhaps just the mark of the sense of safety itself, leaving an unconscious imprint on his face. The rain continues, like an endless lullaby, gently enveloping this study and the person sleeping within it.